How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? And today we have to talk about something that has been eating me up inside for a long time, and that is, of course, about the quotient of plastics and how they affect our ecosystem. For as long as you've possibly related anything to carrying anything from any shop ever purchased anywhere across your entire existence, we know what plastic is, and we know what plastic is used for. Even if you've bought things from one of the best stores out there, you've probably handed your items in a plastic bag. Or every grocery visit you've ever done has probably been ended with you getting your groceries back in a plastic bag. Now, essentially, what we don't understand is the fact that when we get those groceries back, or when we get everything that we need back home, and then we dispose of these plastic bags, essentially they turn into solid waste. And once they're solid waste, is where everything goes from good to bad to worse. Well, just to bring you guys up to speed about the bigger scale impact about what plastic is doing to marine life, is let's just talk about a sperm whale. Is one of the biggest living creatures on the face of the globe. So it's not microscopic, it's not tiny, and it's more certainly than not bigger than anything that you've ever encountered in your life. And when a beached sperm whale was found in Spain, and scientists went ahead and checked its stomach for what might be the cause of its death, they found 30 square meters of tarpaulin. They found rope that was 4.5 meters long and a 9-meter long plastic hose. They also found 2 flower pots inside of the stomach of a sperm whale. Now consider the fact that if it can eat all of this, what would be the actual size of a sperm whale? And this was the reason why it died. What we don't understand is the fact that there is still a lot of plastic that has been disposed of into the sea. As a matter of fact, there has been so much of these plastics that have been disposed of into the sea that there has been a new continent of plastic, of floating plastic, that has formed, that is almost the size of Europe. And that is not just one individual body. There are so many different bodies that have come together because of natural ocean currents and formed various such patches of nothing but pure plastic in the middle of our oceans, thereby contaminating both marine life as well as the significance of what clean oceans do for the earth and the environment. Microplastics are something that is a whole different ballgame when you talk about what terrorizes people the most. You see, when plastics are exposed to the elements for a long period of time, they tend to break down into smaller pieces, and that results in microplastics. Microplastics over time are prone to toxins that they were once exposed to make them more resilient. They let go of these toxins over time. As a matter of fact, millions and millions of sea life die every single year because they consume these microplastics under the impression that these are food, under the impression that this might be something that they can feed upon. As a matter of fact, birds have been found today that have starved to death because their stomach was full of plastics. What we don't understand is the fact that these chemicals that are implemented and bounded with this plastic when it's made are used to make them an array of things: more heat resistant, more durable, more flexible, all of that. But they do not retain these chemicals very well. So when these plastics are exposed to the environment, they rather quickly and in abundance release all of the chemicals that they were once exposed to. And these chemicals, if they make their way up the food chain, can literally cause cancers, can literally cause asthma in young people and in older people. As a matter of fact, it can go as far as to cause developmental defects. This is very serious in terms of its effects and in terms of how little attention is being given to this issue. The plastic industry is so infamous for being so tightly gripped on the issue that they lobby with immense amount of backing, so that nothing or no reform is ever brought to the plastic industry. Another very important thing is the fact that we are still unaware of the actual composition of plastics. We don't know how a plastic bag is made. What are the components that get put into a plastic bag? It is so secret apparently in its own recipe, as they claim for it to have one, is the fact that out of 100,000 possible additives that have to be put together to make plastics, we only know and have confirmed of 11. So just understand the gravity of the situation when you understand that 100,000 components and only 11 are what we are aware of. As a matter of fact, 4.9 billion tons of non-recyclable plastic has been dumped into landfills alone. This is rather devastating to the environment. When we think that plastic is just going to go away, well, it's not. Even if you do bury it, it's got a shelf life of 500 years. It's not going to decompose that easy. As a matter of fact, when we look at the larger scale of the amount of landfills that are out there with nothing but plastic in them, it's half the size of Manhattan. And now, in the year 2020, it's more than that. Way more than that. 10% of 1.3 billion tons of garbage that is produced every single year by one single region is plastic. On a larger scale of things, when we go and understand the fact that 100 billion plastic bags are annually consumed and tossed in the United States alone, imagine the scale from countries that do not record this data. As a matter of fact, the coral reefs have been one of the things that have been hugely impacted by the plastic problem. Coral reefs across the globe are dying on a drastic scale, and coral reefs, if you've never seen even pictures of one, are the most beautiful things on the face of the globe. As far as Australia's Gold Coast, which was so famous for its reefs, went completely dead, and Australia had to launch a record-shattering campaign to try and revive these coasts that were once abundant with coral reefs. The problem is so abundant that 193 countries signed a United Nations plan, but 5 major plastic ocean dumpers that did not sign these plans, that are responsible for dumping all of the plastics in the ocean than the rest of the world combined. These 5 countries have been responsible for devastating marine life, as well as contributing towards immense pollution of our oceans. But when we go back to where plastics essentially came from, we understand that bakelite was the first plastic that was ever formed in the year 1907. But plastics, even though after it was formed initially, even though it was considered a wonder substance because of its trade qualities that were never observed before, was not until the 1960s used on a global scale the way it is today because of the efficiency that came into play about its production. Plastics were branded as a single-use product with its cheap effect on the environment because you can keep reusing it. But what people did not understand then was the fact that once you dispose of said plastic, you are then making it live on as a contaminant for as long as it will exist. And by the looks of it and by the research done on the situation, it is going to be around for a long time. 60% of its impact on the globe in terms of its pollution occurs even prior to its production. The raw materials that are required to produce these plastic bags are so significant that even prior to us using them, more than 50% of its impact has already been made. You see, the bag quotient as a whole is just ridiculous at this point because people believe that using paper bags or using cloth bags are the healthier alternative. Well, that is a rumor that has been popped a long time ago and we are still in the blind about it. As a matter of fact, to justify the resources that are required to make one single paper bag and one single cloth bag, for a paper bag you need to have used it 3 times to justify the resources that went into making that single paper bag. And when it comes to justifying the use of a cloth bag, you need to have used that one single cloth bag a minimum of 131 times to justify the resources that went into its production. You see, reusing is key, no matter if you're reusing plastic or you're reusing paper or you're reusing cloth. It's just that out of the 3, plastic is probably gonna last you the longest. You don't have to go out of your way and take all of the garbage bags that are in your house right now and get rid of them. No, that is not the way to help the situation. The way to help the situation is ensuring that you keep reusing those plastic bags and avoid adding to your collection, if you will. Don't go out of your way to buy paper bags or cloth bags either. If you've got plastic bags, reuse them. as much as you possibly can. There are so many ways that you can use plastic bags in DIYs to make sure you make a bunch of other products from them. The realm of DIY is as abundant as can be, and when you understand that plastics need to be recycled in any way, shape, or form, we need to take this way more seriously than we currently are. You see, 9% of all the plastics that has ever been tossed out has been recycled, and 12% has been burnt, but the rest of the plastic that has ever existed is still around. And this has some very unexpected effects. When we understand that the boom of plastic was even more significant after the innovation of Tupperware, which was in the 1940s, and then 1960 hit and the efficiency went through the roof, the amount of plastic waste generated since has been disposed of primarily in the oceans. And when scientists in the north of Ireland cultivated this plastic debris from its coasts and then excavated a bunch of bacteria that were living on these plastics, they tried to kill these bacteria with the 10 most common antibiotics that were known to man. And what they found then was the fact that 98% of this bacteria that was growing on these plastics and waste microplastics were resistant to the most high-end antibiotics on the market. As a matter of fact, plastics are the perfect harbor for bacteria, and microplastics are even more prone to harbor more different species of said bacteria, because you're essentially spreading out the place and spreading out the contaminant particles that can exist. Marine life, because of the growth of this microbacteria, marine life mistakes them for food and more often than not consume them, which results in their death. Nanoplastics, which are microplastics broken further down due to further exposure to the elements, have the ability to pass through cell walls, which is astonishing at least. And where things get actual insane is the fact that nanoplastics can also pass the blood-brain barrier. Nanoplastics have been known to be found in the brains of marine life. That's how dangerous nanoplastics are. And when we look at the variation of plastic that exists in your everyday life, so that you are more aware of what you need to be doing in terms of containing the amount of plastic you bring into your own life, is the fact that bakelite is used for mechanical parts, PVC is used for plumbing, electrical gears and cases that you find everywhere, acrylic is used as a shatterproof alternative to glass, and nylon is used for clothing and war equipment. As a matter of fact, when we talk about how intimately related we are to the plastic problem, there's something known as phthalates. And phthalates are already in our body. In your body, in your blood, they exist. These are particles that were originally in plastics. And it is so devastating to understand that they are already inside of your body. And the scale of this issue is still majorly unrecognized and usually shrugged off by the majority of the population. We need to understand that plastics are not a joke, and plastics will never be a joke. And if we do not understand the significance of their effects, we will be too late to recognize how to deal with this. And we still don't understand the extremities of this issue and how much worse it can get. Every day new information is learned, every day databases are updated, but we cannot wait any longer to take appropriate action in the right direction. Make sure you guys spread the word about how dangerous plastics actually are, and I'll see you in the next one.